There are almost no products in the world where beauty is treated as a red flag. No one looks at a Maserati and thinks, wow, that design is exquisite, which means they must have cut costs on the engine. But in the wine world, there seems to be this strange subculture that only trusts bottles that look as though they were designed in the 70s by a committee that hates happiness and color and possibly children. Now, the reason that I'm ranting and raving about this bizarre and nonsensical subculture within the wine world is because today's hand drink solar wine of the day is a delightful wine that has been lovingly placed into an equally delightful bottle. And that is the Tandem So red blend made by winemaker Rudi van Waltsleben as part of the broader Von family wine range. Now, as we said earlier, the Von family wine range is definitely not a case of design doing damage control for the liquid in the bottle, but rather it's design and winemaking moving in tandem. But if you are still skeptical and think to yourself, well, if I see wine labels this bold, then surely it must be making up for some lack of intrigue in the bottle, then all you need to do is take a quick look at the Von family range of wines in order to put that idea to bed. Let's take Rudi's Syrah, for example, which in its own right has won a few design awards for what's outside the bottle, but inside, Rudi makes this Syrah with usually about 10% Durif, which he says adds a completely different structural dynamic, as well as adding a whole new set of aromas. Now, I can't say this definitively, but I'm not aware of any other Syrah in the country that is made in that way, and that in itself at least makes it a novelty. But you might say, well, I don't want novelty, I want genuine quality. Well, you can take another look at his wines then and perhaps try his Thief, which is a 100% Durif, or Petit Syrah as it's called in California. It should be noted that it's certainly not inspired by the surly, sometimes unfriendly old world style. According to Rudi, he takes far more of his inspiration from regions like California or Uruguay, where terms like polish and power and plushness are not treated as dirty words. Having said all that, using a term like old world in style, and by implication saying that there is a new world in style, is something that Rudi finds increasingly problematic. But rather than explaining that myself, I'm just going to let him share his thoughts directly.
I don't want to say I make new world wines. I don't want to say I make old world wines. For me, the new world is now making old world, and old world is now making new world. I chatted to a German girl the other day, and she said she found that all the new hype wines in South Africa are so old school. So you realize, oh, for us it's a new world style, but for them it's an old world style. For me, the regions in the world that played the biggest impact on me must be my time in America. And as I said, I've tasted beautiful wines from Argentina, not just the Malbecs, but overall from Chile. And I loved, as I said, the nuts from Uruguay. So all of that had a big role in where styles go. But again, every year I walk into the cellar with no ideas. And when it's done in the end of the year, we've done some crazy stuff. I always look at grapes and then I want to do something new. And it's what the grapes lend me to.
Okay, so now you know who Von Family Wines is and you have an idea of the ethos behind the wines. Let's get into the glass and see what Rudi has prepared for us. So when we give this guy a sniff, well, it really does lead with everything that Cinsault usually promises, this beautiful sense of bright candy, red fruit, berries. It's immediately inviting. But fascinatingly, just underneath that, there's a note that I could only describe as cherry chocolate, I guess. It kind of reminds me of one of those old Belgian Kirsch bonbons. And then it does deepen into notes of kind of blackberry, blackcurrant fruit pastel, mulberry, and there's a herbal edge to it as well. It's not quite rosemary, it's not quite lavender, perhaps lavender leaf, if that's a thing. I mean, it's not floral, but it is sweet and it's pungent and it's got a sort of camphor-like element, which is really quite explosive and adds a beautiful dynamic to those rich black and red fruit notes. Now, when we give it a sip, well, the first thing that strikes you is just how supple this is. I'm not going to say that it's deceiving. I mean, the palate is about as weighty as the color suggests it'll be. And by that, I mean that the 35% of Cinsault in this blend is likely to lighten the color, or at least the visual impact, that an otherwise 100% Durif would deliver. That said, Tannat is still reputed to be a tannin-heavy grape, and so it is a little surprising to feel how gentle those tannins are. Then again, perhaps it is to be expected given that Rudi has already hinted at the fact that he is more inspired by places like Uruguay, and the climate of Uruguay has seemingly managed to tame those traditionally big tannins from Tannat and deliver this beautifully rounded plush fruit affair. And that's more of what we get here, even though, as I said, it's lightened a bit by the Cinsault. And again, probably that Cinsault, which lightens the fruit a little, means that this is certainly not a free-for-all, because the tannic grip that does come from the Tannat, leaning up against its fruit, which has been elevated or lifted ever so slightly by the Cinsault, renders a wine that is generous and beautifully fruity, but without being lumpy or flabby. So with tannins are these beautiful little guardrails. In the middle is some really generous fruit, but it's got enough poise to remind you that this is not fruit juice by the pool. And I guess if you want the fruit basket approach, we can talk about the fact that these two cultivars together deliver a delightful kind of lattice of both red and black fruit. So you've got some sour cherry, you've got those candy musk notes, but you've also got the deeper blackcurrant, even black plum element coming through on this wine. The other thing I love about this wine is the length, because that fruit core really does linger beautifully. And as it's sitting on your palate, it kind of segues between black fruit, red fruit, quite a savory, almost roasted plum skin type note. The finish of this wine is a lovely place to hang out. Well, that's all we have time for today. But while you pour yourself a second glass, I'm going to leave you links to 2 more videos, both of which deal with unashamedly bigger styled icon wines. And these wines are tapping into this growing sentiment that says we're tired of chasing minimalist flavor profiles, and really we want to engage with wines that are not shy of intensity and impact, and which explore the full kaleidoscope of fruit flavors and expressions that can be yielded by a grape like Tannat or by Cinsault. And until next time, stay curious and always drink niche.